If the milk comes out to be sour, I ain't the kind of pussy to drink it. What's up, everybody? PCP Movie Night is here. Station Pop Pop Boom. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the film that introduced us to Guy Ritchie and to Jason Statham amongst just style in British cinema yet again. We're going to be talking about Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels from 1998. I love this film. I'm so excited to chat about this because I revisited it this week and this was one of my favorite movies back in the day, and I am beyond excited to chat with everybody tonight, including Jelani. What is up, my man?
Yeah, man, Station. Yeah, this was a good one. This one came out when I worked at the theater, and I saw it a couple times, man. This is really a good treat to watch. I still think I like Snatch a little better, but good to be here.
Well, ain't no reason to make unfair comparisons, but speaking of unfair comparisons, here's Verno from Blood Splatter Chatter. What is up?
I'm scrambling for some unfair comparison that I can do that's not going to get me in trouble, and I'm just going to shut up. But what up, man? I'm stoked to be here. First timer, and you can tell I liked it because I bought it as well.
Nice.
It's like $9 out there on Amazon.
Yeah,
so what up?
It's a really cheap one to get. You can find it, and man, what a joy to revisit this film, and what a joy to revisit this film with our man Link. What is up? It's the missing Link.
What up, fellas? Stoked to review this one, and I won't say it, but I agree with you, Jelani. But this is a fine film. Fine first film.
Yeah.
Snatch is lock
stock.
Snatch is lock stock with money. That's all Snatch is, all right.
Yeah.
And I think that's fine. I love Snatch as well. I love Snatch, but man, I actually prefer this one for some reason. But that's just me. But I think they're both great movies, and I even like Rockin' and I like his Sherlock Holmes movie and shit like that. So speaking of Sherlock Holmes, if one of us here on the Excitable PCP crew was the Sherlock Holmes of the group, it would definitely not be Brooks because he's way too stoned to remember any of those small clues. Brooks, what is up, man? Welcome to the show.
Boy, what's up, Governor? Ate some fish and chips and watched some Manchester United on the telly then.
All right. We see you out there in the chat. Thank you so much. We want you to be a part of the conversation as well. So let's talk about this movie. Holy cow. So I don't remember where I first started hearing about this film, but it is at the age where I'm really getting into cinema, right? Like in 1996, 97, I'm going to Blockbuster Video. I'm going to Movie Gallery. I'm looking at every single movie. I'm turning it around. I'm looking for things that are written and directed by the same person. That was like the thing for me back in the 90s when I was a teenager, right? In high school. I was like, if it's written and directed by the same person, there's a 85% chance that it's going to be a good movie, right? And I don't remember where I first heard about this movie. I almost want to say it was MTV, but I think that may be Snatch, right? And I'm misremembering it because there wasn't a lot of US marketing for this movie. And in fact, this movie didn't really do very well here in the States, but it did really well in the UK and across the rest of the world. This movie made the career of Guy Ritchie, Jason Statham, Jason Fleming, Sting's in the movie. Why? Because his wife's the producer of the movie. He's like, homie, come on. We got Taco Day at Craft Services if you want to show up on Saturday and film a couple scenes. I'm sure that's what happened, right? But man, I love this movie. And I remember when this movie came out, I never saw it released in a theater. Like Jelani said, you worked there when this movie came out, but I guess
It was
I
a
wasn't.
very small theater.
Yeah, I didn't see it there. The first time I ever watched it was on VHS. I sought it out. I was ready for it, and it blew me away. But it was something that I had seen on TV. It was something I was ready for. And let me tell y'all, at that point in my life where I am just eating up all of the pseudo indie films that are going on in Hollywood, all the Miramax shit, all that stuff, the Tarantino, the Linklater, the Rodriguez, the Tarantino, I already said him, the Kevin Smiths, all that kind of stuff. I'm eating it up. And this movie has that same vibe, but way different. It got unfairly compared to a lot of Tarantino works. It got compared to a lot of other things, but this is definitely got its own style. It was something I loved and adored back in the day. And here on the revisit, just flawless. I think this is a flawless movie. I can't think of a single thing about this movie that does not work. It's got a tight pace to it. It never feels too long. It moves right along forward. Every single character is worth mentioning in this film. The dialogue is amazing. And even if you don't understand it, that was one thing. I remember not quite getting it at first. And I loved it when I could get the DVD and watch it with subtitles. Because, you know, those Brits, and I wish Mark was here. Maybe he could speak for the rest of them. But man, they come up with some crazy ass slang that makes no goddamn sense to me. It makes me feel like I'm a 50-year-old in fucking 1983 being like, but bad is bad. Why is it good? You know, not being hip to it. But I'll tell you what, one thing I am hip to is this movie. Fresh, stylish, and I think it holds up tremendously well today. And I will declare it's Guy Ritchie's best film next to only Aladdin. What about you, Jelani? What do you think about this film overall? That was a lie. I do like Aladdin, though. All right, Jelani.
Aladdin's a banger. No,
It is. It's good.
I've never seen it. I've never watched it. But yeah, I saw this in '98. It was in a small theater. I didn't understand it, but I was watching everything. That was back when the time I was just watching anything that came out. Like if it came out in the theater, I was like, watch it. I could watch it for free. So I was like, shoot, yeah, I will watch it. And I didn't understand what they were saying at first. You know, it's kind of hard to like pick up on it. So I watched it again like a few days later because it only lasted in the theater probably like 2 weeks. I think it was there like 2 weeks, and it was.
How's it hard to understand, dude? The dialogue makes total sense. I think it's basically. I think it's basically chicken soup. Kosher like Christmas. What the fuck does that even mean?
That was a period of time where I was like, I liked heist movies, and it is kind of a heist movie thing I was just gonna go see. You know, it looked cool, and Vinnie Jones was cool, and all the other stuff. And I was like, yeah, I'll go see this. And I just didn't understand what they were saying. Sorry, I wasn't into like cinema where I was watching a lot of British films and heavy accents. Like it took a while for me to get what they were saying, stuff like that. But it was still entertaining. It's still throughout. It was a great film. The soundtrack's decent. There's just a lot of great things in it. Everybody that's in this movie, they're straight bangers. Everybody, even down to the kid. It is such a cleanly just made movie, and it's. Everyone's dirty. No one is clean in this. Not really many people get scot-free from this one. It's you know, you got your issues, but the 4 main guys are pretty much, you know, they're screwing up right and left, and it's a fun little watch because of that. But I like everything. I love the criminal element of all of it. It was fantastic.
It's great crime fiction, you know. And at that time, I'm really big into crime fiction because I'm like digging into Martin Scorsese's catalog. I'm reading Bendis's stuff that's going on live, like Goldfish and Jinx and stuff like that. Like I'm digging into it. I'm reading Nowheresville. I'm reading Sin City. I want crime fiction. And this was just perfect, right? And what I love is you mentioned that there's nobody that's like, there's no villains in the movie, but there's no like bad people in the movie. But at the same time, it's a feel good movie. You know, we've been talking about, we talked about Casino recently. We talked about Goodfellas last year. We talked about Taxi Driver, these Scorsese gangster films, which Guy Ritchie, huge influence from Scorsese. In fact, the whole bit when a dude gets up after losing the card game in this movie, and it looks like he's like on Ghost Adventures, and there's a camera right there.
Yeah.
That's straight from Mean Streets, bro. That's straight up Harvey Keitel, Mean Streets, drunk and high at that bar, right? So he's got those things, but it doesn't ever, like, even though there's death and there's violence and there's mayhem, it never feels like super heavy. It's a very light film. That's a fun film. It's a fun gangster film, you know, that warms your heart. Speaking of fun gangster that warms your heart, Verno, what did you think about this movie? This was your first time watching it, my friend.
Dude, I was almost sure, like, the closer I got to actually watch it, I'm like, I'm probably going to put it on and be like, oh, I remember this movie. Just looking at the cast and the year it came out. But no, dude, I'd never seen it. And I'm kind of there with you, Jelani, where you said it was hard to understand the first time. The first 10 minutes, I was like, oh, man, like, I don't know if I'm following this. I was like a little bit overwhelmed and like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. Having a hard time understanding him. But once it clicked and I was able to kind of catch up with the plot, what the hell was happening, I just loved it. It's just so different. Like, I feel like I had like a goofy look on my face for half of the movie. I was just like halfway between a smirk and like, what the hell is this? Like, it's such a weird, unique, cool flick. It reminded me, I think you guys did something recently where you mentioned how in the 90s there were all these day in a life type movies like Friday and Dazed and Confused. And this isn't that. This is like over the course of a week or so, but it has that same feel where you really feel like by the end of it, you've got to know a ton of characters a little bit, and you feel like you know the community. You're like, you're there with them. So I just loved it. I ate it up, man. Gladly watched it 2 days in a row. And it's a little long too. It's not like an hour and a half. It's an hour 45 or whatever, but it's a breeze to watch. This is another one that I will never not be in the mood to throw this on. It's a great buy. It's just like such a fun ride. And it has the violence. It has the stakes that you want to make it like have a little oomph to it, but it is like the way they end the movie. You know what I mean? Where it's such a slapstick moment after all that death with dude hanging off the bridge. That scene right there kind of encapsulates what this movie is. Yeah, in a lot of ways. So I love
that ending. Actually came up later after the fact. The original ending of the film, they think they got away with it. They think they got the money back, and then the last shot we see is Vinnie Jones and his kid, little Chris and big Chris, right in their car, looking at them coming out of the bar, and then we cut. So we know that the story is going to continue. In fact, there was actually a British television series that was based on this one. I've never seen it, but Guy Ritchie actually wrote the pilot and then gave up the license and sold it. And I mean, Guy Ritchie, you know, made a big name for himself after the success of this movie, right? Like Maverick Records wanted to release the soundtrack because they thought the soundtrack was great. Madonna runs Maverick Records, right? So that's eventually how they wound up meeting at a party with Sting, because Guy Ritchie knows Sting and Madonna knows Sting and everybody knows fucking Sting. And I'm just waiting for Sting to get here on the channel. Speaking of not having Sting on the channel, the closest we can get is my man Link. Link, what do you think about Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels?
It's a banger. It's a fantastic film. I can see where people draw the comparisons to Tarantino. It's very witty. It's a crime drama. Well, not crime drama, but crime film where all these people are loosely connected, but it's like 6 degrees of separation type of shit.
Yeah.
But like you said earlier, Robbie,
one big difference though, right, Link, is that like the Tarantino, like Pulp Fiction, all those stories are separate, right? They're like their own story, but in this one, every story actually does lead to one complete conclusion, right?
Very true. But also, like you said, it's not as heavy. Tarantino violence is very violent. I wish I had a better term for it. But Guy Ritchie films, while they're just as violent, shit pops off. It's done almost in a lighthearted manner and way more. I don't want to say way more stylish, but maybe that's because of the music, by the way, which his soundtrack is amazing. There's like a cool funk to it, you know, like old rock, like funk, psychedelic rock to it. But yeah, this is a fine film. I saw this. I think this was the third Guy Ritchie film I saw, because I saw Snatch first, and then I think I saw this in 2006. This was like shortly after this film called Revolver had come out with Jason Statham.
Yeah,
So
that's
it was all right. I
fantastic,
need to
yeah.
go back and watch that.
Yeah.
Andre 3000 was in it. But yeah, after seeing those, I was like, you know, these are solid. These are solid. I've always heard about Lock, Stock, Two Smoking Barrels. Let me check it out. And at the time when I saw it, I didn't know that was I knew Vinnie Jones only from fucking The Last Stand at the time, Juggernaut, and Jason Statham. You know, yeah, I'm the Juggernaut, bitch. But yeah, I love this film. Great energy, great cast. Not to get into it too much, I will say that I don't know how to explain this movie to people. Like, the plot is convoluted, but that's okay, because Guy Ritchie always creates like these fucking standout characters. Like you said, every character is not a waste. Like, this is an example of, you could watch a solo movie on every one of these characters in the movie, and it'd be interesting. You know, I'd want to watch that. So it's a testament to Guy Ritchie's style. I love the film though.
Yeah, absolutely. Brooks, it's been a while since you've checked it out. What did you think about it on the rewatch?
Oh yeah, last time I watched this, it was on VHS actually. So it's been a while. But yeah, like I remember liking this movie. Like it was. I remember thinking it was very funny, and it still holds up. You know, like this movie had like, it gave me a lot of like real belly laughs in this movie. Like it's like when a joke would just come out of nowhere, and I'd just be cracking up. But yeah, like it's a really fun movie. Like there are a couple of scenes where I'm like, where they're talking, I'm like, I can't understand what they're fucking saying. Not because of the words. I just can't understand what the words are they're saying. It's like,
Yeah.
but you know,
What?
I'm sure
How did that go, man? How did that go again?
oh yeah, you do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like there's very few instances of that. So
Where's Manny? That's the next PCP t-shirt right there. Is that quote?
I wonder how I'd spell it out. But
Well,
yeah, it's a good movie.
phonetically.
Phonetically, yeah.
Sorry, Brooks, you like it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. This movie has a fantastic cast. Like I said already, every character is deserving of the spotlight. Here lately, I've been nice and I've been letting y'all go first, but I'm going to go first this time because there's so many characters to talk about in this movie. And I want to make sure that I get to talk about Vaz Blackwood as Rory Breaker. That dude cracks me the fuck up in this movie. He is the dude with the afro, right? And he was like, you telling me that these guys are dumb as fuck and they're going to steal my own ganja and try to sell it back to me? Dude, everything he does. So none of that dialogue was written to be funny, but he delivered it funny. That character is not meant to be funny, but he is. But at the same time, threatening and menacing. And he plays it so well with his delivery on every single word that he gives us. It blows my world apart. I love him in that movie. And I love that we get introduced to him in that pub scene where they're like, hey man, would you turn down the TV? And he just goes, no.
I love how they explained the flaming man coming out of the pub.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's one of the more
That's
Tarantino
awesome.
moments of the movie, like where
Yes.
That's the
switching
one bit of
structure
like
around.
non-linear storytelling,
Yeah.
right? But oh my goodness, I love him in that movie. He just, every moment he's on the screen, I just fucking love it. Like it's threatening and menacing, but at the same time, superbly funny. Speaking of menacing, threatening, and superbly funny, Jelani, you're all of those things. What do you think? What's a character you want to highlight?
Yeah, I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take Vinnie Jones as Big Chris and his son, Little Chris. I love their dynamic. I love the fact that like he takes his kid on jobs and like he's just learning the tools of the trade and he's showing him what to do. and what he does to that last gangster in the car, like how angry he was, because he was quite calm when the guy was like had a knife to his son's throat. But
Funny
then when like
story. Funny story, Jelani. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I've had a few shots of tequila, so that's going to happen tonight. All right. But funny story. That was the first thing Vinnie Jones shot for this movie, right?
Fair enough.
He's actually what they call over there a footballer. So to us, he's a soccer player, right? And in the script, Guy Ritchie said, Big Chris looks like someone like Vinnie Jones. Right? And so they got him to do the fucking movie. And that was the first take. And the cameraman's down there in the fucking floorboard of the car. And they got this piece of wood so that like Vinnie Jones can like smash the door against it. And Guy Ritchie looks at him and goes, scare the shit out of the photographer. And he just went to town with it. And then he said that everybody, when like the take was done, everybody was just silent. Like, I don't think we need to redo that. Like they were just stunned, man. That's a great picture, Laney. Continue.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's just one of those characters that does that. And plus, I love him in Snatch's Bullet Tooth Tony. He's just B. Jones has that charisma and stuff, which was halted by Juggernaut because I'm the Juggernaut bitch. But I really wish he got more work after that. I think he did. I just don't know where it would have been. But
Guy Ritchie films.
Yeah, pretty much. But fantastic character. I love him. He's just there for the job, period. Until the end, where he's just like, here's your bag back. They open bag is empty, except for the Sotheby thing. And I don't know, his whole thing, he was like, this entire trip was emotional.
Yeah, and one more thing, it's been emotional.
It's been emotional.
What a great character. And he's so he's so respectful and honorable in this film.
And
you know, he's like, hey, I found these guns. I know that you like these kind of guns, so I figured I'd bring them up to you. And he just kind of like, I don't have an employer now, so I'll take a cut of the money. He took all the fucking money. Left them the gun. I also love the whole plot device that there are these super expensive guns that are more expensive than any of the heists being pulled off, and they're just using them, and then like they think they're like a joke, and it's so fucking funny. Vinnie Jones kills it. Speaking of killing it, Blood Splatter Chatter talks every week about movies that kill it on Blood Splatter Chatter. Yeah,
we try.
What do you think? What's a character you want to do?
There's Vinnie Jones is great, and both of those guys are great. Those are both on my list above this guy. I'm going back and forth, but I'm gonna go with what is his name in the movie? Barry the Baptist, played by Lenny McLean.
Yes,
the governor who died right after this movie. Found out while making it he had cancer. Known as the governor, the king of cobbles, and the hottest man in Britain. And that's what he is to me. Yeah, oh my God, he'd be a perfect kingpin. He reminds me of the dude in Reservoir Dogs, the big boss.
Yeah,
he's like the British version of that dude. But it's pretty difficult to be intimidated by a Brit. Sorry, but it is. But this guy, he's a very, very intimidating guy, and he's just got a mug on him. Like half of what he's doing is just look the way that you look, and you're gonna nail it. He's sitting there. To me, I'm like, man, this guy looks like a gorilla. And in the one scene, he gets up and he walks away, and these guys like Southern Monkey or whatever they're calling them, Southern Fairies and Northern Monkeys. It's like, is that a British? I wish Mark was here. Whoa, we almost lost Robbie. I wish Mark was here just to ask him if that's a thing. I bet that phased out. It's probably not cool to call people Southern Fairies or Northern Monkeys anymore, but I'm curious if that still is a thing.
Well, there is a north-south thing, right? Of like in England, right? There is that kind of thing. Yeah, my chair totally just fucking almost gave out on me. That was great. That was fun.
But he's great, man. I thought he was such a standout character, and he really did. He was the one that our main characters were actually seeing and being intimidated by the most. So he played a vital role.
I think he would have made like a good dark side if they'd have ever used that character in like the old Christopher Reeves movie. Because he just has that build, like he has that head shape. Like that's what I thought when I'd see him. I'm like, man,
dude,
it's a missed opportunity.
It's great. Yeah. And what a great introduction when he's like drowning that fucking dude. He's called John the Baptist because he likes to drown people. And then he like looks at his watch and it just fucking stops because he's also a businessman, right? You know, speaking of slaying and doing business, Link, what you got? What's a character you want to highlight?
It's all fine selections, gentlemen. This is an easy one, but I think it's warranted. I'm gonna go with Jason Statham. I think he has a lot of qualities in here that he still exhibits today. They kind of magnify him now, but he had that cool, calm, collected demeanor throughout the whole film. He never really gets too excitable. For his first film, you couldn't tell this man. I mean, it's not the Jason Statham we know and love today, but he has a natural charisma to him that I think it stands out. You can see that this guy was going to go places in cinema. So I'm going to go with Jason Statham.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely. Guy Ritchie is walking down the street one day. He sees a dude peddling stolen goods and just random doodads and being really funny and charming while he's doing it. And it's Jason Statham. And he says, "Hey, you want to be in a movie?" And change that dude's life,
No,
right? Like,
incredible.
he's got to be the biggest star
nice.
to come out of this movie, right? I mean,
Yeah,
think
he
about
is.
it. Like,
Yeah.
he's a huge star. Like, it's
He's the
ridiculous.
beekeeper. He keeps bees now.
It's such a good
He
way to
loves it.
open up the movie too, because it gives you everything. You get all the charisma that you're going to get in the
Totally.
movie, and the criminal element that you get. What cracks me up is when he's got that mask on, and he's like, "Bend over on the table." And he sounds just like Jason Statham. Like, motherfuckers are going to know who you are. Like, you sound just like you. Like, they've got to know.
Hell yeah, not in 1998. And speaking of not knowing who you are in 1998, but it's a different story in 2024, Brooks, why don't you take the floor and let us know a performance you want to highlight?
Well, I'm glad nobody managed to steal mine this time. And it's a character that doesn't have a whole lot of scenes, but there's one scene that is really good. I can't remember what her name is exactly. I think it was Gloria?
You're talking about the chick on the couch, bro.
Girl on
Yes.
the couch. That's who I almost went
Yes,
with.
the girl on the couch.
Yeah.
Like, I just fucking loved it because, the way, there's like two instances where somebody just like almost sits on her because they don't realize she's there. And then that last scene where she like just comes up out of fucking nowhere, grabs the dude's gun and just like unloads into the fucking place. Man, I think that was like the heartiest laugh I had while watching this movie was when this chick just mag dumps into this fucking building for no fucking reason. And then
My
just, like,
heartiest, just when she
just
got
fucking-
sat on,
that's
it was
just
so
it.
good.
Yeah. What the fuck you doing here? That rat looking motherfucker that's in the movie, right? Like,
Yeah.
what I love too is that bit is great, but when I truly laugh in that bit is when it's all over and she's just sitting there and that dude stands back up and goes, "Where the fuck did she come from?" He just goes and decks her. Dude, it's so great. And when you rewatch it, you see her on the couch already.
Oh yeah.
Like, you see her there when you're like, when you know what's about to happen. I remember the first time I saw that. That's like a fucking knees up in the fucking air moment, right? That's a moment where you're just like, what the fuck? That's so hilarious. Shouts out, by the way, to Winston, who was the one dude with a level head that was the dope dealers, right?
we grow copious amounts of ganja here.
Yeah. You know, you don't look like an average fucking horticulturalist, right? Like, it's fucking, he actually was really fucking good in the movie. And I love the bit too, where he's like, "Go get the gun. We're being fucked." Then you realize it's a fucking air pistol. Like, it's just, they're just stabbing, like, shooting people. Oh, I've been shot. Like, it's so fucking funny, man. Like, oh my God, it's ridiculous. But this movie also has style and structure. Guy Ritchie got kicked out of high school. His dad had connections with the British film industry. He wound up being like a courier for like a film company. He worked his way up, started directing music videos, started directing commercials, and then he put some funds together and got some other friends together, and he did a short film called Hard Case, I think. I could be wrong about that. Hard something. And it was basically a lot of the sporadic elements that would become Lock, Stock. And he put that together, and then he decided, after looking for a script, because he struggled with dyslexia, he put the script together himself. Sting's wife got a hold of the script, said there's a lot of potential here, but the script is fucked, right? So we got to make sure that it's a little bit more presentable. Then they came in, they raised some money. This movie was made for the equivalent of $800,000 at the time. This movie is a shoestring fucking budget. So to have no money No recognizable stars outside of Sting, who was doing it probably for some fucking fish and chips on the side because his wife was the producer of the film, right? Like, there's an unknown writer and director, an unknown cinematographer, an unknown editor, an unknown cast. And man, did they make this movie work for what they had. They shot it in 5 fucking weeks. And they say that Guy Ritchie knew every single shot before they even filmed it. He was already talking about, I don't care if it sacrifices anything from story or structure. If something is on the screen that looks cool, we're going to accentuate that. We're going to make this like a music video. Now, a lot of movies today can do that kind of like music video-y montage within the movie, and it fucking blows, right? But this one, it works. That scene when he like loses the poker game and you're doing, and all of a sudden the style breaks. And any other movie that would take you out of the movie. But this movie is the style. That's part of the substance of this movie, is that style. It is beautifully shot. There wasn't a lick of a warm color allowed on the production design or the costuming or anything. There was a sepia tone put across everything. It's got that gnarly, gritty, old school look. And at the time, it felt a bit retro. But now it's interesting because the cinematography and the cutting and the editing of this movie, like, it was mimicked so much, in particular in British films, that you look at Lock, Stock, and you go, oh, it looks like any British crime film. No, it looks like any British crime film post Lock, Stock. That's how influential this movie was. It's a fantastic film. Style, structure, it is so perfectly tight. Not a single plot line is just dangling by the end of it. Everything gets wrapped up. It's like one of the best episodes of Seinfeld with a little bit more high stakes involved. What do you think, Jelani, about the style and structure of this film?
Yeah, man, I kind of agree. It is gritty. It's just one of those crime noir things that they got going on. It's that with that lightheartedness, like you said before. In this, I love the shots in this movie. I love the party scene when they pull off the heist and like, we did it. That entire little montage there is one of my favorites in this movie. It is so clean. The fact that like going back to Brooks's character Gloria, the fact that she's wearing clothes that basically blend in to the couch, and the fact that she's able, like, she's, like you said before, she's there, she's sitting there in the corner of your eye, but you don't really pay attention because there's other stuff going on. But then when you finally see her and it looks like her clothes are the sofa, I don't know, it was like a maroonish cream color together, the outfit that she's wearing with the wall, and then she pulls up with that gun. Oh man, it's so clean. That shot is brilliant. And it is nice to see stuff like that in movies, and it is a genuine surprise. There's so many different things, like the ending shot where Ho is like trying to reach for the revolver. I don't know why he took his phone and put it in his mouth to begin with. That was so weird. But like, I love all of that. That last shot at the end is fantastic. It doesn't feel low budget because it's shot so well. And it has so many just great composition shots everywhere, to the point where you're just enjoying the movie how it should be seen. It's one of those things where it's just a matter of fact thing. And for a first time filmmaker and cinematographer, you're saying, and even the acting in this movie, which makes it, not feel like it's almost 2 hours. It is almost a breeze to get through, to understand the concepts. It did take a little while, like I said before, to actually understand what they're saying. But once you understand what they're saying, it's off to the races. It's just one of those films that looks good. I don't know where they found those guns, but those guns were a bad omen. But they were just, anybody that had those guns is gonna have a bad time. You're gonna have a bad time. And it was, I don't, what is that called? Was it the Hope Diamond? Hope Diamond is basically whoever possesses it has bad luck, or something like that. That's kind of what I saw in this film. But showing off those guns for some reason, like I said, I guess they weren't Walmart guns. They were just
Yeah.
really, really old guns that they
Yeah.
found for this
Very
film.
old,
But
antique, expensive guns. Like,
nice.
They
Yeah.
weren't in the bloody case. They weren't
Yeah.
in the case. There are guns. We sold them for 20 quid. Anyway, one of my favorite bits in the script, by the way, is the idea of Tony. We didn't talk about Tony, right? The Jason Fleming character, but like he's Fat Tony, right? And there's all these fat references. What's funny is that the character was written to be a fat dude. So all the fat jokes were supposed to be there to make fun of a fat dude. And then they cast this dude and they just didn't change it. And it makes it funnier.
Right.
You know, when Soap's like, you know, you're not funny. You're fat and you look like you should be, but you're not funny. And he's just like, and all the time he's like, what do you mean fat? Like he's like the thinnest dude in the fucking
Yeah.
movie. I love that. Verno, what about you? What do you think about the style and structure of this film? And carry us through. I got to take a break.
You betcha. That right there, that scene reminds me of just like what I appreciate about this film. While they're having that conversation and they're counting up the money, and it's that crazy wide angle shot to the point where the outside edges of it are distorted and it's just like extra stylized. That's what this film stylistically, there's the bits, the montages where the camera is moving, and it's super dope and impressive there, but there's so much of it where it's just, and I feel like I've heard Robbie say this, I'm just going to steal it. If you pause it anywhere in this film, it's going to be a great photograph. It's just, even when people are sitting there at the bar, it's so simple. It's like Carpenter-esque in that way, where every shot, every composition is just as decluttered and as simple as it can be. And when movies do that consistently throughout the whole flick, it just like, it makes it feel so clean. I will say, like, it is fucking distracting me. The sepia stuff I could do without. I would, you know what I mean? Like there's so many shots where it comes in and it's just this bright yellow, and it's not, I don't know about bright yellow, whatever it is. It's sepia. It's very noticing, and it's some scenes way more than others. Some scenes it's not there, and others it is. And for me, that it's jarring and it kind of distracts me. That's the only issue I have with the look of it. But other than that, it's fucking incredible. Structurally, we talked about it a little bit, but I do think I guess even as far as the style, it does feel like Tarantino to me, but it's a little more sophisticated, which I hate to even say because I love Tarantino so much, but it's everybody that Robbie mentioned earlier, like Kevin Smith, Danny Boyle, Tarantino. It's all of that. All of that is there, but it also is its own thing. Like it's very Guy Ritchie at the same time. But what the characters know and what we know in the movie is always interesting, and that's something that Tarantino is really, really good at, is keeping us one step ahead of the characters, so we get all that tension and drama. It builds it up so much better, and that's what's so great in this. It's like I always compare movies like this to, it's so stupid, but Beavis and Butthead Do America, where they're going around and doing all this stuff, or like Forrest Gump, where he doesn't realize like the impact that he's having, and then by the end, you're like, son of a bitch, everyone's dead, and maybe this is all our fault, or is it? It's so confusing to sit back and look at like who's to blame for any of this, but it's just brilliant on every level, style and structurally. But Steph, Mr. Link, what about you, my friend?
Okay. Gotta agree with you, gentlemen. Style wise, this movie, you know, when I said it's like it's a little convoluted. I meant to say like, I don't really think it's not convoluted, but I don't think I could explain this plot beat for beat. Like this guy knows that guy and he connected, you know, it's a crime caper, a lot of connections where all these, you know, these threads coalesce into one thing. But style wise, you know, that it makes up for it. You know, that is, I guess that is part of the style. But you know, this seems like for a first time director, it seems like he was fully realized. You know, just like I'm not surprised that they said he had every shot already planned out by the time they got to set. Yeah, you know, this is I think it's a testament to this film. Like I think that it's one of my favorite films of his still. I think it's still one of his best films. So I think that's a testament to how fully realized this shit was at the time. You're right. This did kind of create like a genre into itself. Like there were crime films or British crime films before Lock, Stock, Smoking Barrels, and then there's crime films afterwards. And it's, you know, every time I see unfortunately, I don't know if that's bad on my part, but every time I see like a British crime film now, like I'm maybe subconsciously comparing it to like Lock, Stock, Snatch, Layer Cake, stuff like that. Legend, I think it was, Tom Hardy came out about 9 years ago. I think it was 2015, 2016.
Okay.
Not really the same movie at all, plot wise, but it's like in that vein. And it's like, I was already comparing, when I saw it, I was like comparing it to these films. So I think that, that's really cool that he's created his own subgenre. And I like when people like stretch out and do different things and don't, stay in one box. But I always appreciate a good Guy Ritchie crime film. I think that's where he shines. But
Yeah.
style-wise,
That's why
beautiful.
that's why I got the gig to do Aladdin, because that's basically a crime film. If you really think about it, this guy's listed for, it's the biggest heist of all time, right? So there you go.
Can I pose a question to you guys? Because this is something I've been trying to figure out. It's been so long since I've seen Snatch, but when I'm looking at the cover and it's like the entrepreneur, the hustler, the gambler, the chef, I'm expecting this movie to open up, and I love movies that do this, where it introduces the cast and it puts like their name, the chef, up on there. Do they do that in Snatch? Is that a thing? Because it's been so long since I've seen that movie.
No, I think if I remember
But they have
correctly,
their own introductions.
I think they do the same thing where like they
do like narration.
Yeah, they do the
Okay.
narration. They do the
Turkish
pause.
does like a narration for all the characters, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, because I was trying to figure out like who started that wave. Because it's in a lot of cheesy, corny movies, but I always used to eat it up. It always like, I don't know, it feels like something this guy would have done. That's why I was curious.
Yeah. Another thing I love is that the narrator of this film, who is the dude who works at the bar that dude's dad owns, Sting, right? He's Bricktop in
Bricktop.
Snatch. He's the villain in Snatch. So that's cool. I love it when directors use the same performers, right? That's always something I really enjoy. And another thing about the style in this movie is that's how you do slow-mo. You don't overdo it, Scott Snyder. Zack Snyder. Damn it. I always get that. Those two must be brothers. But you don't overdo it and it's not obnoxious. Speaking of not overdoing it and being not obnoxious, Brooks, what do you think about the style and structure?
Oh, I love it, but I remember this movie being in black and white, and like when I rewatched it, I could see why, because this movie uses a lot of grays and whites and darks, and it has that sepia tone kind of thing as well. So like through a lot of the movie, I was like, oh, I see why I would have made that mistake, thinking it was in black and white, but it does captures the grittiness of the main streets of Britland, where you can walk out, some guy, some bully boy come along, snatch your wallet or something, yeah. But yeah, like, and structure-wise, it is very fun, because there's a lot of moving parts in this movie, and the moving parts are all characters, and it's fun watching the gears turn and seeing how it all comes together. And one thing I like about foreign crime films, or films about set in a different country about crime, is there's a lot less guns. So the thug types in Britland are much more intimidating, and they're very physical, like Big Chris. He doesn't, if he was an American criminal, he would carry a gun everywhere and be showing it in people's faces. But since he's in Britland, where they don't have as many guns, he actually has to go around and do it, with his bare hands. He has to be tough, and that dog is like that kind of too. He's one of those. He's like a kind of hands-on guy. He can, get his hands dirty when he needs to, and of course, British Kingpin as well. They all just look like super tough dudes who are just you could just imagine them just snatching you into an alley and just beating your ass.
Or hitting you with a black dildo. One way or the other.
I love it. Hatchet Harry ran a sex shop and
what is that for? Ask for spankings, come off it.
It's for spanking. I love it. I love it. What's it for, Harry? What's it for, Harry? That's by the way, this is actually a sequel to the Harry Potter franchise. All right. The music. Let's talk about the music.
Harry?
And you're a hairy wizard. All right, so most of the music in the film is actually soundtrack driven, right? And I was watching this making of documentary that I think is on the out of print there's like a DVD that has like more special features or something, or a Blu-ray or something. I think it's out of print, but I think it came from that. But in that, the editor of the film is talking about, yeah, the music that we chose was right for the time, but it's a little dated. Get the fuck out of here. It's not dated. You're using like funk music and garage rock from like the 70s and shit like that, right? Like you got James Brown on this fucking soundtrack. You got the Stooges. That usage of the I Want to Be Your Dog when dude like loses all the fucking money, and it's that shot from Mean Streets, but you got that oh my goodness, it's so good. The use of Liar Liar by the Castaways, Dusty Springfield, all of the music, all of the songs chosen rock. But there is a score to the film. It's very subtle, and you don't even realize that they're using score because the score is mimicking kind of the vibe of the soundtrack. But the music was done by David A. Hughes and John Murphy, and it includes that fucking bit with the awesome bass line. Boom, ba dum, ba dum, ba dum, boom, ba dum, ba dum, boom, ba dum. That's not a song. That's actually the score. It's amazing. The music is one of the things that accelerates the momentum of this movie for me. What do you think about the music, Jelani?
Yes, I agree. It's great music. Like my favorite song from this was the Big Payback with James Brown. Revenge. I love that part when they're walking up to do the high, or towards the end of the movie. It just made so much sense that that song was playing, and everything is purposeful with the music. It all makes sense. It's not Suicide Squad where they're just throwing songs in this to have a song. It makes total sense. The score is, yeah, you're right. It is subtle. It's there. I love that music. That yeah, that's basically the theme of the movie. It's prevalent. It makes a lot of sense that it's there, and I enjoyed it a lot.
Hell yeah. What about you, Verna? What did you think about the music?
I loved it. It's very, very energetic. Like it gives the movie a shit ton of energy. And every cue, even I didn't know any of the songs personally. Maybe if I went through the soundtrack, I would, but I don't think I knew any of the music. And even some of the stuff that I wouldn't like dig, some of the punkier stuff, it was really good, like punky stuff. I don't really love punk. The James Brown was the one bit that it's like, hell yeah, that was one of my favorite moments.
Paid the cost.
There's a bit where it's like you got there's two rival factions or whatever that are, when they're about to meet, the one guy is hiding on the table and all the brothers are coming in to meet him, and it's like this, I think it's like a mandolin, and it's just building in intensity and rising and rising. It's just like, it's so damn intense, and it's so weird to do that.
Isn't there a moment in the movie too where you have like one, they're doing their thing and you got their theme, and then the other dudes come in and it switches the music right into it? Like,
yes,
have those kind of things going on.
That's another thing. Yeah, there was a large variety of music. There was the punk stuff, there was the straight rock, there was the funk, there was a lot going on. And then there was one thing that really stood out to me right before the slow motion machine gun scene, when the guys are coming up after they beat the guys down in the first place and made their way up. There's just like some guitar riffs out of nowhere that are super intense, but they're so fitting for like their little, I don't know, entrance into the upstairs and what's about to go down. But it's awesome. Major highlight of the film.
Fuck yeah. I also love how the potheads are always listening to reggae.
Yeah.
If you know, like they're always just Winston. There's some of the best bits, man. Are the potheads and the whole cage stuff. Like that whole
the dude with the weed for a pillow cracked me up. So that's one of my favorite types of joke, where it's like, oh my god, I've been looking at him for 30 seconds, didn't realize that he was using this big bag of weed as a pillow.
Yeah. I feel like we could have been doctors or rocket scientists or something. What about you, Link? Speaking of could have been a rocket scientist, but you chose this route, being on a PCP movie night, which you're doing a great job. You're killing it, bro. So, like, what do you think about the music in the film?
It's fantastic. I really didn't realize there was a score to this. I thought it was all soundtrack, but it's all masterfully used. I think that's somewhere Guy Ritchie particularly shines in all his films when it comes to his music selections. It adds a lot. It added a lot to this film. Fantastic. I can't say too many more better things than you gentlemen have already said. So I'll just go with that.
It really
Oh, yeah.
gets into it too. And one of the interesting things is he did a lot of British music videos before this film. And they're all like
I was
like that 90s like
That
like
makes a lot
Brit
of sense.
techno shit. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Do you,
Yeah,
do you remember
there's
the
one
do you
song I
remember the
saw
British remix of Kung Fu Fighting from the 90s?
No,
And
everyone
everybody
was
was
doing
Yes.
it.
Kung Fu Fight.
Yeah.
He did that video, for instance. Yeah.
That's wild.
He's bound to meet Madonna.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
shit, right?
Yeah.
You know? No shit. And it was the music of the film, his music choices that led to him meeting Madonna. How crazy. And they got together, they broke up, they divorced, and Madonna had a whole fucking album about him called MDMA. And if you want to know some of the dirt, if you want to see the tea get spilled, right? Listen to the song Love Spent by Madonna. Love Spent. That's a great song,
Looking
first
it
of all,
up.
but listen to that. She wrote that about Guy fucking Ritchie, just so you know. So listen to that and be like, damn. He's a gold digger, is basically what she was saying. All right, speaking of gold digging, what about you, Brooks? What do you think about the music in the film?
I liked it. It was very good. Like, all the soundtrack songs are good. But like the what stood out for me was like, that bass line in the score, that doom, 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 doom. Because it reminded me of like early 2000s Radiohead. Like it reminded me of a song off of, I think it was Kid A.
That song from Kid A, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what that bass line reminded me of. And yeah, and it's used like several times throughout the movie. It's like it really works, It really it sets the tone, I guess, as all good music should.
Yeah, this music's got. This movie's got great music. It's got a great tone. It's got a great atmosphere. It's got a great structure, a great pace, a great script, a great performances. But it's also trying to tell us something. What's the theme of this movie to you, Jelani? What's this movie saying to you?
Don't gamble. Gambling. Every time you gamble, some crazy shit happens. Because what if he won and he got tons of money? He probably would screw that up too.
There'd be no money. There'd be no movie.
There'd be no movie. Yeah, it wouldn't have happened. It feels like everybody in this movie, especially towards the end, it was just a big misunderstanding, like across the board. Because even like Vinny Jones gets the guns, and it gives the guns to the dude at the end, and he's just like, okay, yeah. When I first saw this movie, I thought like something else would happen to where he would get those guns. He would get those guns as form of payment from them. Be like, hey, we were trying to do this heist, it didn't work out, but we have these guns. And he's like, oh, well, this is what I wanted to begin with. These are always what I wanted. So, and it's just funny how that turnabout was also fair play when like the two robber guys, the ones that Kingpin hired, turned out to be the ones that killed them. It's so wild how this movie turned out.
What the fuck are you doing here?
Like, you're not supposed to do this.
What I love is that nobody can like imitate that fucking dude. The guy who died like a month before it was released, like the Baptist or whatever. Like nobody can get that voice. Like I can't. Like
no,
he's like the fucking thing, right? Like you said, he's like the dude from Reservoir Dogs, man.
Yeah, he is a lot. But yeah, don't gamble. It's not worth your time, your effort. And I know people do, but
or maybe only gamble if you can afford to lose.
If you can afford to lose. Yep. Fair enough.
That's a good one. Only put it up if you can afford to lose it, right? Yep. What about you, Blood Splatter Chatter? Talking about putting it up and losing it every week. What do you think?
Story of my life. This was a tricky one, honestly. Usually, like something kind of jumps out at me that's a little bit deeper, and I don't think it's a weakness of the movie at all. But I don't think this movie's trying to say too much. I think it's going to say something inevitably because it's a story and there's something you can always pick out of it. But I don't feel like he was like, oh, I've got to deliver this message. He's just trying to entertain. But if I was to dig a little bit in there, there's the friendship element. The only ones that survive, because that's the way I'm looking at it. Everyone's kind of a bad person in a way. They're beating up the guy that's just trying to give tickets. No one's really good. They're all pretty shitty people.
I fucking hate traffic warden.
Yeah, traffic war.
Yeah.
that's one of my favorite parts of the movie. Period. Also, when they're starting to tell jokes and it cuts away before the punchline, that's hilarious.
Yes.
But there's a bit where it's like in a world where everyone is trying to fuck you over, just do what you got to do to get by and don't worry about it. That's kind of what this movie is saying. No one's playing straight. And you could take that on a broader scale and look at like the systems we're all under. No one's playing you straight. So just do what you got to do for yourself and your friends is really what I take from it.
Hell yeah. What about you, Link? What's this movie speaking to you?
I did love that scene, by the way. That's probably my favorite scene where the traffic cop is still in the back seat and he's starting to wake up and they all go back there to beat his ass. That was hilarious.
I love when he's doing the inventory. He's like, we got like 8 bags of ganja, we got fucking like all this money and a traffic warden.
Well, fuck we want with that. So good. We'll knock him out and dump him.
Yeah.
Verno, where I don't think Guy Ritchie was really trying to say in particular too much, just trying to entertain more or less. But what I took away from it is when you do a crime heist, there's a good chance you're not going to get to see the fruits of your labor. So don't do crime heists.
Yeah.
Crime doesn't pay.
Crime does not pay.
Hell yeah. I mean, that's basically it. Crime doesn't pay. It's like the typical like trope of the theme of the heist movie. It doesn't pay. It winds up being more trouble than it's worth because you already had it when you legitimately, even though they were some hot ass items, bought those antique guns. You didn't even realize you had the treasure the whole time. So that's a part of it too, right? Like crime doesn't pay.
Like that.
Sometimes what really will provide treasure in your life, you already have, right?
Yep.
Absolutely.
It's like Einstein in Cowboy Bebop. Einstein the dog was worth a fortune, and they had them the whole time.
Yeah,
and they were always poor.
It's like Men in Black. It's like Men in
Yep.
Black. You can find us in Orion's belt or whatever the fuck that shit is, man.
Yeah.
I just know one day we're gonna run out of ideas and we're gonna do Men in Black here on the channel, and we're gonna see what happens. We're gonna have a Will Smith July one year. We're gonna have a Will Smith action fest.
Well, we all slap each other at the beginning of the episode.
What about you, Brooks? What's this movie speaking to you, man?
I think a big theme of this movie is like, being, I guess, being more discerning in your associations with certain people, because it's like, like this guy, like I guess the main guy, the guy who's good at cards, like you should have known this dude Hatchet Harry was like gonna fucking con him. Like dude's a criminal, like he's not gonna fucking let this dude go in there and like fucking legitimately show him up in a card game. Like you should have fucking known that,
His name is
like,
Eddie in the movie, by the way. Eddie.
Yeah. And like, even in his friends are now like, they're all lumped in with him. Like even though like, all they did was like give him money to do it. Now like now like they're getting pulled into all this fuckery because like there's some people that you need to just stay away from, like like not like I'm hating on anything, but like if there's a crime guy, like don't try to like out-crime the crime guy, or don't try to like play fair against the crime guy either. It's like just don't do anything with the crime guy, especially if he's like a crime guy who like has giant thugs who can drown you, or who walk around with their son beating the shit out of people, like
Right, a little bit.
The crime guy.
Yeah.
I fucking love that. I love it. I think that's great. I agree with what everybody's saying here. For me, this movie is about responsibility, right? And this movie is in particular about shirking that responsibility. Now, the thing is, it's not a film about avoidance. These are not people that are avoiding their problems, but these are people that are not accepting responsibility for their problems and then shirking that responsibility off to other people, like Eddie with the other people, like, and I love it when he's like, there's that bit and the narrator's like, now Eddie would be lying if he said that he wishes he was alone in this debt. And then it cuts to him and he's like, and I swear to God, I begged for him to like make me just the only person responsible for this debt. But it's about that shirking of responsibility. You're trying to take the easy way out. You're not owning up to what is actually happening. You're not owning up to it. So now your dad, Sting, is fucking disappointed, is going to clock you one at the end of the fucking night and make you walk across fucking London, Britain, where the fuck they are. They're somewhere over there. I don't know. But that's what it is to me. I mean, it is that crime doesn't pay. It is about that bond. It is about not being around people that you shouldn't be around, those crime people out there, like
Crime guys.
avoid
Crime guys.
those crime guys. You want to avoid those. But to me, it's about responsibility. This movie is filled with examples of people not taking they understand that they're responsible, but they're trying to take the easy way to skirt around that responsibility. And that to me is what this movie is about. Though all in all, the point of this movie is to entertain us. And I think it does it splendidly well. And we will now rate the film out of 5 possible you digs. You out there in the chat, let us know what you give Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. Jelani, kick us off.
Yeah, I like this film. I like this film a lot. But it ain't no Snatch. Snatch I can watch repeatedly. This one I can too, but it's different. So I'm gonna give this one a 4. This is a 4 deal. Yeah, I still like it. I love the characters. I love everything about it. Guy Ritchie is one of those just filmmaking geniuses, in fact. So it's an impressive film to me. So yeah, I'll give it a 4.
All right, a 4 from Jelani. What about you, Verno? What do you think?
I'm gonna give it an enthusiastic 4.69, bro. I loved it. I think it's so cool, and it's actually, and part of that is probably because I can't compare it to Snatch because it's been so long. But I'm dying to watch Snatch now at this point. But the only thing that I don't like about the movie, and I don't like this in a lot of poker movies, and I've never played poker with a bunch of crime guys, so maybe this is how it goes down. I don't know, but it drives me fucking nuts. I can't imagine any poker game that I've ever played. I can't imagine ever setting up a game where if I bid higher than you have, you lose. That's so stupid. That's not how games work. It stops at the 100K and the movie is fucking over. I get it that's what we need for the movie to work, but that is so frustrating to me anytime in a movie when that happens. That's not how it works as far as I know.
Well, I'll tell you another thing that fucking pisses me off is like, I would never gamble that high stakes on 3-card stud, basically, man.
Right.
You get 3 cards and that's what you got. Get the fuck out of here, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I love
You
playing
bluffing?
poker. Ain't no goddamn way I'm putting 100 G's up to that shit, man.
I wish it was
No way.
kind of telegraphed and made a little bit more clear what because he didn't have a great hand and he bet against the guy because we know that he can pick up on things. The dude's eye is dilated. I guess that's what it was. But
Well, he also had a good hand for 3-card stud, basically, right? Like you get 3 cards, you don't get to draw,
and there's no flop.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. See, I guess it's hard to even judge that because I've never played any poker. But this came out before Texas Hold'em became this huge thing, and everyone thinks they know, like me, thinks they know what the fuck they're talking about when it comes to
this
poker.
movie was made 10 years later. It'd be Texas Hold'em.
Yeah.
Right. Like 100%. Like if James Bond Casino Royale. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But great movie. And this is when I say it all the time. Like I would have come across Escape from New York. Probably. I would have eventually watched that. I probably would have never watched this had I not joined PCP Movie Night. So I'm super glad that you reached out into the chat looking for someone and that I volunteered for it because this is a classic.
Hell yeah. What about you, Steph? What do you think?
I am right there. Trying to gauge this correctly. I'm gonna give it. I'm right there with Vernon, a little less. I'm gonna give it a solid 4.5. I think it is a solid, very solid first effort for a film, very fully realized. There's a lot of elements in Snatch that just feel like Eric said earlier. This film crawled so Snatch could run, and I think that's very evident. There's just some elements that carry over from this film that seemed a little bit more refined, well thought out. But this is still a fine at first effort, and it started a whole genre into itself, and not many people or films can say they've done that. So I'll give it a solid 4.5.
All right. A 4.5 from Link. What about you, Brooks? What do you rate this film?
I give it a 4.5. Like, I really like it. Like, and as far as the whole genre of like crimedies, like I think this is probably one of the best. But I wouldn't say it's perfect at the same time. It feels a little chaotic to me, which is both good and bad in a way. But it is like it is a great fun movie, and like it's totally one that I would like I could feel like I could put on whenever just a fun movie.
All right, so we got a 4.69 from Verno, a 4 from Jelani, and a 4.5 from Steph and from Brooks. Me? Y'all crazy. I'm giving this a 5, you digs. This is a perfect movie to me. Let me tell you why. This is a dude's first movie, right? And it is this clean. It is this tight. It is this stylish. It is this influential. It has started so many bright careers from all of the actors, not just Vinnie Jones or Jason Statham, but even everybody else in this film started getting more roles and being recognized and shit like that. It's a wonderful fucking film that I think is absolutely perfect. I don't think there's a wasted moment. And that's something that I can't find in a lot of movies. Even some of those movies that we talk about, 5 you digs, this movie's great. You know what? If Reanimator lost a scene here and there, maybe it wouldn't matter. But this movie, everything serves the plot. Everything serves the ultimate point. And I do think it's unfortunate that Guy Ritchie gets compared to Tarantino and he gets compared to movies like Get Shorty and stuff like that because it has its own style. And I love this so much. And I understand what y'all are saying about Snatch. But where you see that Snatch is the style of Lock, Stock perfected, I see Snatch as just, oh, you're doing the same thing again, bruh. Just with money this time and Brad Pitt. So that's the distinction for me. So for me, 5 you digs. I love this film. So all of us averaged out, though. The PCP average on this film is 4.53, 69 dudes. So there you go. Yes,
Great
and
film.
Matthew Vaughn also became a director. He produced this film. He directed the Kick-Ass movie, the Kingsman movies, and of course, Layer Cake, which is kind of like a spiritual successor to this movie and Snatch. That's a great movie. Miles O'Brien has never been as scary as he is in Layer Cake.
Yeah,
so you definitely need to check that one out.
Yeah.
So thus concludes our movie review for Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. We got one more movie to review before we jump into March Madness, and that's going to be next week with Jackie Brown, which will be the first live appearance here on the channel from PCP Backlog Bro Bad Batch, whatever the fuck y'all want to call yourselves, like for the first appearance of Easy Dick Eric, and we're going to make that fucking stick. So Jackie Brown next week here on PCP Movie Night. Verno, thank you so much for joining the show. What you got coming up?
We've been doing mostly pre-recorded shows over the last month or so, switching the format up a little bit shorter, a little bit more compressed, but super excited. Next week or this Thursday, gonna have my homie Link with me. We're gonna have Fable. We got Stu from Dr. Doom's fan club talking about VHS from 2012. There it is, right there. It'll be a fun time, man. This is a horror anthology where it's all found footage. So a lot of shaky camera, some genitalia flying off human bodies. It's gonna be a blast.
I've never seen that movie, but you just sold me on it, bro.
I saw it.
Welcome to join.
It's a lovely anthology. Yeah.
8 Central Standard Time. We'll be there. Be square.
All right, everybody check it out. Link, what you got coming up?
Tomorrow on Dr. Doom's fan club, Supreme Clientele. I think we're starting at normal time. We talked about going later, but 9 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be covering. We were covering the Marvel Knights era line for these last few weeks. We're going to be ending that with the Jeff Loeb, Tim Sale Marvel colored books. It's not really a Marvel colors because we're going to talk about Long Halloween and stuff like that as well. So we're really talking about Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale and their collaborations. Me and Dr. Doom, Stu himself, the good brother. Supreme Clientele, 9 p.m. tomorrow.
Hell yeah. I hope y'all
Oh,
bring up the
right.
Wolverine Gambit Victims series, which I think was their first
Oh,
collaboration.
yeah.
So make sure we gotta make sure we
shit.
got it. It's not as good as Long Halloween or Daredevil Yellow, I guarantee that, but it's still worth mentioning, right? What about you, Brooks?
Absolutely.
Man, thank you so much for being here. Final thoughts? What you got coming up?
Oh yeah, we do this thing here, yeah. It's called Go Figure Reviews, you know. And we did some G.I. Joe. We did G.I. Joe. And we did a Last Ronin Raphael. Yeah, the guy's got a dog, yeah. You like dogs? And then we had Raphael, yeah.
Like that.
He's one of them Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you know. And yeah, check it out. It's not as good as Manchester United, but it's pretty close, I think.
It's kosher as Christmas.
One of my favorite bits. All right, so the stuff with Rory when he's sitting there watching his TV monitors, and Nick the Greek is there at the fucking table and everything. By the way, some member of the crew broke the table, so they filmed the bit where the glass went through. They got the replacement glass, then they filmed him breaking the glass. So it was like that's another kind of improv, off the cuff moment. But that was supposed to be football, which they call in the UK, which we call soccer. It was supposed to be that. And when they got the VHS tape, they put it in, they got the monitor set up. It was American football. And they were like,
This ain't footy.
so like
kind of footy on my
They
telly.
couldn't get any other video. Like they couldn't find any.
movie was
football
made in a
thing?
cave with scraps.
Scraps.
Man, don't you understand?
Jeez.
Delaney, thank you so much for being here. Final thoughts. What you got coming up?
Yeah, we're got Go Figure Review stuff going on, like we talked about just a second ago with Brooks. Thank you so much for freaking telling us about that. Well,
You
I
got
can't
me,
do that.
governor.
No problem.
What are you
Hey,
on
Mike.
about?
You're all right.
My accent would probably be considered a hate crime in Britland.
Yeah.
I love how you keep
Thank you,
saying
guys.
Britland. You say Britland, like Britland. Like, what the
Ain't
fuck
that
is
what
this,
it's called,
Disney
then?
World? What's going on here, man? Britland?
Britland.
It's like it's Super Mario Brothers 3, you know, Britland.
Yeah.
Delaney, go ahead. I'm
Like
sorry.
that.
No, you're good. But with our channel, Go Figure Reviews, yeah, we got Junkyard and Mutt. The video's not out yet, and we also have the Last Run Around Field, like we mentioned before. But this next week, when we put some videos out, I've got a good acquisition for us. Brooks is going to be like a big surprise. So we'll talk about it, and then we're gonna film it, and then you guys will see it too. So good times. I'm excited. We may even have another house tour coming. So stay
Nice.
tuned. Go Figure Reviews, guys. Check us out.
Nice. Just so you know, Delaney, I pre-ordered my Fortress Maximus that releases in August. So if you want to do a video for that, I'm down for that. So that's going to be later this year. But yeah, I had to get the Fort Max, man. I had to. All right, y'all. Join us next week for Jackie Brown, the first appearance here on PCP of Easy Dick Eric. That's going to be fun. But join me for a very special show Thursday night, 9 p.m. Central Time. A show that is 20 plus years in the making. Delaney and Brooks can vouch for me.
Yep.
I have been a fan of this dude for a long time.
For a
and
little
now, here we go. A conversation with me and Joe Casey here on the channel. Very excited for that. Join Dylan's Horror Show this week as they talk about Rawhead Rex.
Fuck yeah.
Is that a good movie?
Fuck, dude. Rawhead Rex. That was like when I was a kid, that was the deep cut that I knew about. That was like the one. When I joined you guys for DHS, I was like, you guys ever heard Rawhead Rex? And you were like, no, why are you so excited? But no, Rawhead Rex, it's a great creature design. It's cool. It's a cool ass movie.
Well, I've never even heard of it. So like, I guess I have, Verno. I'm sorry. I guess I've heard of it from you. So, but yeah, so they're talking about that on DHS next week here. PCP movie night, Jackie Brown, Joe Casey on the channel Thursday, Saturday. We got Dylan's Horror Show, Rawhead Rex all throughout the week. Check out Go Figure Reviews, Last Ronin Raphael figure review. We got Junkyard and Mutt. We got VHS on Thursday night over at Blood Splatter Chatter. And do check out Dr. Doom's Fan Club and Missing Link as they do Supreme Clientele, where they'll be talking about Wolverine Gambit Victims by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. So everybody check that out. And for my final thoughts, I'll just say, oi, get your hands out of my soup.
Hey, how's everyone out there in Radioland?